I'm recording on, yeah. So hello everybody, I'm James Rink. If you haven't heard of me, I am a super soldier and I've had numerous 20-year and back missions in the secret space program. Some of this is based on some of my experiences, but most of the content is through other whistleblowers as well as. I need to mute their mic. Okay. All right. And this is a really old version of the tech, but we're going to go through that. So these are a summary of some of the systems out there that some of this is SSP and some was precursors to SSP, but certainly the holographic medical pods, which are that's what we saw here. This is just a pod, and it wouldn't use the mimetic gels, which are like the black goos and AI femto pastes. But so they would use this. They would apply a hologram over your body, and then the hologram will create a new wave field that would trigger your body to grow back whatever was needed. And I'm going to go a little bit more. I'm just doing a quick summary, and then we're going to go a little bit more depth. The holographic cellular regeneration med beds, it's the same technology. That's just a name that Randy Kramer has coined it, and he is attempting to bring this technology out to the public. I'll explain a little bit about Randy in a bit. Of course, I just mentioned about the biomimetic gels. These are like the femto pastes. Some of them are different colors as well. Of course, green, yellow, and the black goo, which is talked about quite often in the secret space program. You don't want to be infected with that. It takes away your compassion, makes you extremely intelligent, yet cunning. These goos can synthesize tissue and pretty much bring you back from the dead, basically. The regeneration tank is where they would put some of these mimetic gels as well. Some of these holographic beds have it. This could be a tank where they can put the gel in here. So there's different ways. There's like 3 different ways of restoring your physical flesh: the gels, the tanks. I'm sorry, the gels and the tanks, as well as the lasers and the plasma tech. But apparently, and also, I guess there's also some pills that you could take, and that's something new. And I don't have too much information on it, but I'll do my best to provide at least some sources where you can research that. The HET, that's another name given to this technology by SuperTech DSF. He had a 20-year back mission on Mars, and that was the name that the secret space program or the German group called this device. And then we have trip chairs. That was a name coined by Barry King at Peasmore. And trip chairs can insert and change around memories. The holographic beds can also do that, but the trip chairs were more specifically used for trauma. So I put that in there because it does use some of this technology crosses over. The celestial chamber is another one of these forms of this regeneration tech, but that is Jared Rand's version of this all. And Jared Rand and that appears to be more of an ET-based technology, and there's different wave fields that replace one form of your DNA, I guess on an etheric level, with another. So, then there's the Priory magnetic Bordeaux machine that uses the longitudinal EM waves to time reverse your cells back before they were sick. So that was invented by Anton Priory back in the late 60s, early 70s, but he died in, I think he died around 1980, if I'm not mistaken. But I have some pictures of that to show you can see what that technology looks like. And that was used as a precursor for this other tech. But the SSP stuff is way more advanced than what we have here. So here's some of the people I mentioned. I'm also going to be talking about Dr. Michael Wolff, and he was in the project he wrote the book Catchers of Heaven. In his Project Sentinel, he worked with this the J-typing Omega Delta 2 clone, and he grew it in a tank. So they found essentially these clones were yeah, they had to use a lot of torture and trauma to get them to comply. But ultimately, most life forms, that just like God is all about love, most life forms are trying to seek that balance with love, so they can try to program what they want. But ultimately, the universe tries to return you back to that status. And yeah, we're going to go a little bit. I don't speak too much about Tompkins, but he does mention the pill that the age regresses you. So there you have it right there. SSP, the regenerative tech has been around at least 80 years, but they have time travel tech. So it could have started 80 years ago, then they go travel back in time 400 years. And then, yeah, so and then there's time freezing zones, time bubbles, portals, where they're outside of time and other parallel realities. So there's a lot that's could be technically what we call time. You have to get your mind out of the linear and see it as multidimensional here. Yeah, so there you have it right there. If we could reduce healthcare costs down to almost nothing with this technology, we would have 20% more money in just pretty much everything we do, all the transactions, because it's a hidden tax. Companies have to increase how much money they charge, and all that's passed on to the consumer. So, yeah. Okay, so implementation. So Randy Kramer, of course, he's working on it, but he says that the military has agreed to finance. I'm sorry, to fund. I'm going to get it free. To allow the releasement of the technology, but they're not willing to fund it because a lot of it's highly classified, and they're worried that paperwork will bury it. And especially, I guess, if they start going to the patent office, and the patent office declares that, of course, there's about 6,000 patents that are classified under national security reasons. So, but Randy Kramer knows how to create this technology. But he is not necessarily an engineer. So he's working with a team right now to help him bring this out, but he needs some money. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about Randy later on, but yeah, so there you have right there. The hospitals and the medical cartels are opposing the technology, because it would affect their business model. If it only would cost $20, you go to a vending machine, put your debit card in there, and pay $20 to get healed from cancer. That would certainly be an issue. And by the way, that technology really did exist. I did talk to somebody who worked at UCLA, and this technology was they were trying to get some grant money to do it, and her coworkers all thought it was a joke. So there's a lot of this mindset of these doctors. To me, they seem very arrogant. I don't understand even why they're even trying to even help people. And it seems like anyway, I don't want to add too much my own personal commentary to this. I'm just telling you what's going on here, from my opinion. Okay, so yeah, Randy says that apparently once the funding money flows to get some of the prototypes put out there, it'll take about 10 years before it gets widely used. And I'm talking about all the way down to like third world nations where, everybody can have access to it. Now, I like to see that happen faster, and certainly the RV and the NSARA funds will help with that, but one thing at a time. Yeah, so Randy was promoting the idea of creating private clinics, because the current medical cartel is so entrenched, and the doctors are, in my opinion, brainwashed. It would be very difficult to train them, but I suppose once word gets out to the public, demand is so astronomical, they'll have to upgrade. So this is another rendering. This pad right here, it actually it locks you in place, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But typically, a lot of people that see this, it looks white color. But yeah, so there will be a scanner. Okay, how about let's just go over a scenario. What would typically happen? Like, for instance, this information came from Ilana Kapolin, who you can find her content online on YouTube by doing a search for Ileana, the Star Traveler. And so she worked in a cybernetic lab on Mars. And so she says that these soldiers they have Neuralink implants, and as well the smart suit. So the Neuralink and the smart suit will notify home base if if perhaps like an organ got cut off or so on. And if they can't get, and then they bring out these Meditech pods, which put them into a temporary stasis. So if they're bleeding out of their neck, at that point they'll probably almost be dead. But if they could somehow stabilize them to that to enough, and by the way, it doesn't matter if they die; they can still reanimate them. They have up to a week, by the way, but still, they try to stabilize them with the Meditech pods, and then the smart suits will levitate to get them up onto the pod if they can't do it themselves. And at that point, they're brought back to the base, and they're put into these holographic medical pods where the regeneration will occur. The computer will scan, look for issues, make diagnoses, as well as recommendations. And so the more advanced technology can also go into the astral, and there's other interdimensional aspects of your body as well, depending on whether or not you're getting access to ET technology. But apparently the pods can service the implants, the Neuralink, but if they were put into the mimetic gels or paste, that's a little bit different story. But we'll go into that in just a bit. Just another rendering. I would say that would be more like a trip chair right there. But okay, so the machine goes into automatic mode, and once you select what the diagnostic and the repair method that the computer already has pre-programmed, it will go in automatic mode, and lasers would use I guess refractory lenses, and using live scans of the body would try to reanimate a certain organ by inserting a new harmonic wave frequency of a DNA sequence that they want to overlap over the body. And they can also go with different extraterrestrial races, but typically you would obviously the computer would scan your body and determine the most optimum output. So the more advanced tech would also include ET races, but obviously we don't have necessarily access to that database right now. Okay, so and so as far as what it's capable of doing is, for, of course, detoxification. Antibiotic injection is not so important, but especially if you have a machine that can just remove all the bacterial or viral infections. And then cellular reconstruction, cesarean, and stem cells and neurons, and age regression, as well as, I didn't write it right here, but it can insert memories and change your memories around. And we'll go into that bit. So this right here is just a drawing of the typical pod, and we've got of course the operating shield, laser scalpel. We got limb restraints, which may, like I said, remember I showed you earlier with the pad. This actually might be a good example right here. It's like foam, memory foam, and it surrounds the body and it locks you in place so you can't even move. So this, that it might be a more puff up more around the body, as well as it would have, of course, laser mirrors to remove scarring, computer controlled robotic surgical arms, spray and anesthetics, vital sign sensors. Of course, this thing had a titanium base. Some of these would actually be more like a dentist-like chair, depending on what they would want to use for. So this is another drawing what an MRI type bed. So this is actually the more the least of, what do you call it, the basic model, I guess. What they've got more advanced stuff than this now, but so the mimetic gels was that, again, those goos, and typically it would be a green color, but again, as I mentioned earlier, it could be different yellows, blues, and hopefully not black, but that, I don't think that would be used for healing. So here's another design here for different med beds of lasers and scalpels. So okay, and then we go on here to age regression. So some of this information, I mean, uh, is based on some of the research that I've done, but maybe Mike might want to add on to it as I go through this. You're welcome to, Mike, jump in. But so at least what the consensus with a lot of scientists now is that aging is a result of basically when you every time you're affected by an environmental toxin or stress, your body is always trying to recreate itself, rebuild itself from the attack on the DNA as the cells replicate. So what the body should be doing is regenerating those codons directly. However, what it does is it tears apart other codons in the DNA and takes that and uses them as building blocks for the damaged area. So it quickly goes in there and repairs the damaged area, but the area that they took the codons from part it's basically damaged too. So it doesn't really go back and repair that. And so that's where the DNA replication errors occur slowly over your lifetime. And your body produces stem cells in your bone marrow. And some of the stem cell production is actually regulated by the growth differential factor 11 or GDF11. And there are some studies which show that there is some efficacy for age reversal with that, but trying to get some money for a funding to actually prove it, because there's different studies that conflict on that. But I tend to think the earlier studies are more accurate. But yeah, so we've got so the body's degrading about 1% per year, and then so while that's going on, while your body is losing its stem cells, it's also going through a senescence where the cells are slowly dying. And eventually what happens is these cells accumulate in your body, and then that becomes a toxic overload. And then it becomes exponential, where your body is not able to really clear it out. And that's where there are some senolytics, which take out some of these toxins available to that you could take, but most of them don't work very well. And the medical pharmaceuticals they're trying to make some more of these as a drug, but ultimately the turmeric, I mean, you can't beat that. And then Foxio4, which is more expensive, but C60 has been shown to, and that's an antioxidant, which acts like a sponge, removes a lot of toxins from your body. But yeah, so we do have some things that we could do now, and here's what's going on here. But the holographic pods can also remove a lot of these toxins from our body, do it for us. It could trigger the DNA to or reprogram the DNA into that healthful state, as I mentioned earlier, where the DNA is degrading due to age. So yeah, and then the body's chronometer and the zero time reference, it can also be changed. So this is something that really goes into more of quantum mechanics, but at least at Montauk, there have been cases where some of these individuals could become lost. Their ZTR would become lost in hyperspace, and when they come back, they quickly age because the body doesn't know exactly where they are in the timeline. So it is theoretical. If we could just move the ZTR around, then we can reprogram the mitochondria to say, oh, well, this is what my actual age is, and this is what so what I'm trying to get here, it almost appears that our cells are programmed to die, and we can just change the programming around to say, oh, by the way, you're actually this age. We tell it, and then it says, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to get with this new program, right? But so we've got this issue, yeah, with the ZTRs being moved back and forth as they're going through the 20-year and back missions. So for individuals out there who are not familiar with this, I'll explain it. Essentially, when you're recruited into the SSP, they wipe your memories initially, and then they usually give you about a 20-year contract, sometimes longer. And they tell you your family died, or you were a test tube baby, or they just wipe all your memories of your childhood. And then at the end of your service, they tell you, oh, by the way, Earth hasn't been destroyed, and you've got a family there, but we're going to have to re-age you back. And then they give you your memories back. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about how they do that. But so SuperTech DSF, that you can find that on my website, where he just discussed a little bit about becoming younger in the stasis pod. But yeah, so they would have to restrict your movements, and I'll go into that a little bit more in just a bit. So Ileana, yeah, so she also goes into more about the ZTR, but apparently there are serums now that can do this as well. So that, and right here you can see they deliver various isotopes into the body that change the body's chronometer vibrations in order to control the aging process. Now, I don't know very much about this particular drug. I haven't done much research on it, and to try to get I don't know anybody that even has I guess William Tompkins, he talked a little bit about, but I don't know if this is the exact same drug. But it is possible to do that, so we don't even need to go through a pod, which to me it seems great, because typically you have to be restrained for it takes about 1 week to reverse 7 years of age in the pod, and they take pictures of your body. The computer creates like a holographic projection, and it'll be like a 1 week basis. Like it would look at your aging, and then it would create a picture of what your aging would look like a week prior, and then a week prior, and it would create all these snapshots. And then it would slowly create the hologram over you, as I said earlier, the vibration, and then your body would slowly shift into these different snapshots and slowly go back. So it's a very time-consuming. Well, I'll say time-consuming. Yeah, I mean, what? I guess 2 to 3 weeks for a 20-year back mission, but they have to be constrained and so on. So it's not very pleasant to be in there for 3 weeks and not move. Okay. All right. So I do want to mention that humans used to be able to live for 150,000 years in Atlantis, and they also had the technology to re-age. There are some of these cities at the bottom of the ocean and inner Earth where there are people down there that are humans that are that old. Additionally, they tend to be taller, around anywhere between women 7, males 9 foot tall, and even taller. Actually, the average height for beings in this galaxy is 14 foot, according to Randy Kramer. So the fact that we are so short just is a sign that it shows us that our DNA has not been fully activated. So in our future, that will be that's basically what's going to happen, is that we can use some of this technology to activate some of this DNA. How to do it is beyond my level of understanding, but so progeria, you might be familiar with this particular syndrome. I'm bringing this up because we talked about age regression, but there's also age acceleration, and some of the technology for the age regression was based on age acceleration with the progeria syndrome. By studying the certain enzymes and hormones that these individuals suffer with, they're able to mimic ways of fast forwarding or reversing the age. And they were more specifically looking into that for cloning purposes, because if they wanted to, say, make a clone of a presidential model per se, and I'm not talking about the betas, I'm talking about actual presidents, right? They would, once you you create a fetus, you need to have a full adult, right? So then they would use these chemicals to accelerate aging. And I've heard 2 hours to make a full adult clone, or up to 3 days. I guess it all kind of depends on the age. Maybe they have ways of doing it faster now, but that just shows you some of the capabilities of this technology. So once you have a clone, not saying that you would want to make a clone of yourself, but if you did and you wanted to maybe have a little bit different DNA, and maybe you wanted to travel to another planet that had a different atmosphere, but you would want a different clone body, I mean, theoretically, I guess you could use this. So then you need to transfer your memory. So this is where it comes to engram programming. And memories are not stored in your brain. Your brain acts as a CPU processor. The short-term memory forms are embedded in the holographic astral body, as well as the long-term memories in the Akashic record. So when you're using photographic memory, eidetic memories, or even savant abilities, these individuals are actually channeling the Akashic energy records around you. So that's why, yeah, when as far as the memories are concerned, they're considered a hologram themselves, just like everything in nature is a hologram, where it's just a facsimile of each other, as above, so below. And we also see that sacred geometry constantly repeating itself. So if you were to say, take your memories by using trauma like an MPD, DID, like they do in some of the trauma-based mind control, you would have memory, two alters that would be split, and one consciousness isn't aware of the other, but it's still the same soul, right? But it just has less information. So the more they beat these people up, some of these MK Ultras, what happens is just the memory, their abilities get degraded and so on. So it really just damages the individual. Although they're able to create trauma walls and do some really, I hate to say amazing things, but you can do some. Your consciousness is capable of doing amazing things. What I should say. So yeah. Okay. And then we have the different memories are attached to different frequencies. And then, yeah, there's the spiral, there's sacred geometry affecting how it radiates outward. Now, as far as memory erasure is concerned, the memories are not fully erased. They're all either stored in the astral body or all the way out there in the Akashic record. So what they do in the SSP is they just damage the decoder, so your body is not able to access these particular memories, but they're still there. So all these people that have had their memories wiped in the SSP could theoretically have them restored if they so desire. So then we go on to how we can transfer these memories around. And one of the ways they can do that is through these ultrasonic cerebral holograms. And this information, if I'm not mistaken, came from Dr. Michael Wolff. You can read, find his book on Amazon, but actually I think it's like $400. Last I checked, it was $400, but it might be more now. But anyway, the point is that yeah, so these memories are using lasers, using like in high frequency sound and light waves. They can make a 3-dimensional copy of a person's memory, and then it can be done with or without the person's knowledge. I wouldn't be able to answer how they do it without their knowledge, but yeah. So, and then they would sometimes use certain type of classified drugs, and this came from, as you can see right there, that was from channeled remote viewing sessions. But yeah, so they would give these drugs at the end of the SSP participant service, at the end of their 20 years and back. And but some individuals are able to recover their memories. So like I said, that they were able to restore the decoder. And going on here, most SSP personnel are kept under the age of 35. So this kind of gives you an idea of what future humanity will look like once we all have access to immortality tech. At least if you wanted to continue to age, you can also choose that as well. So you don't have to be 20 years old or 35 years old. According to Randy Kramer, the preferred age is somewhere between 30 to 35. If you go back, if you wanted to bring yourself back younger, say you want to be 18 again, you typically, they'll also find that the maturity level also decreases as well. So yeah, you may want to so there might be some limits. Obviously we don't want people, rich billionaires, deciding to go back to becoming a baby again, but theoretically I guess it could happen, but there might be limits on how it's used. Additionally, if you want to stay, say, a 60-year-old or 70-year-old individual, you could do that for quite a long time. But and I already mentioned earlier how long it takes to reverse your age in the tanks, that is, the regen tanks. But I think in the future we'll have more advanced technology even from that. So that, yeah, they give you sleeping drugs to keep you perfectly still. And as well as the tanks, the regen tanks have neural stimulating gases to sustain your body. And then, as I mentioned earlier, remember I told you about the photographs and the snapshots, they go piece by piece and slowly mirror you back to a younger age. Okay, so this is Super Tech DSF. This is his testimony when he was sent to Mars, and he spent when he was initially at the academy. They would give him injections, and they would also take a snapshot of his the holographic on the holographic examination table of his I guess his physical vessel, whatever else they were taking photos of. So at that time, um, between the femto injections, as well as yeah, his IQ would go up about 10 points per year. So by the time he graduated, he had IQ 263. So at the end of his service, he was brought to meet Dr. Gabriel, and so I'm assuming this was probably maybe around mid 1980s, because he was born in 63, and then he was brought into the SSP around the age of 7. So he spent 20 years. So that would be actually 1990. So roughly around 1990, Dr. Gabriel pulled him aside and told him that a little bit about how our DNA is holographic, and everything is being recorded. So they can just simply change the cellular memory and they can make you forget something or change something around. So Dr. Gabriel told him that he was not a test tube baby, that they made that up because they found initially test tube babies would become psychotic. So that's why they started drafting people into the secret space program. If you were wondering why can't they just do that, that's right reason why they're doing this. Although that may not be the case now. But yeah, so he called it the holographic examination table. So this was actually this is what the Germans called it in their secret space program, and he regretted what was being done to us. So more advanced technology is the soul transfer tech. I didn't put a picture of my the crystal chairs that I had. I can, if you want, I could try to find a picture of you. That technology is from the Greys, and this is ET tech. And I was initially told that the SSP did not have access to it, but apparently they do, according to Alana. And that's where there's a lot of ethical issues here, especially if they could just take you and put your soul in another clone body. That violates a lot of universal laws, in my opinion. But apparently there is ways of doing this, and they just they have a stasis units where they can hold your soul energy and move you around between physical vessels. And typically what they would do is they would abduct a human that was about to die, say like in a fire or a plane crash or train crash. And then they would take their soul and put them into a clone cyborg body, or if they wanted to convert them, they could try to convert that body as well. And then they would trade them to extraterrestrials for technology. So they would get the benefit of all advanced technology while we humans on the surface have to pay for it. So that's why a lot of this SSP stuff needs to come to an end. And there's a line right there talking about, this is about the Neuralink technology cyber organization process where you can access quantum supercomputers and AI in your mind. And that is probably going to be, I would say that would be a strong probability what's going to happen, at least with the cell phone technology, will advance more into the Neuralink. And it's not necessarily a good or bad thing. It just all depends how it's used. And as long as, I guess, if they use quantum tunneling and not 5G systems in your brain all the time, there might be some benefit to it. Although I don't know if I would want to be plugged into the internet 24/7. But anyway, so as far as other advancements are concerned, the drugs can not only, as I mentioned, age regress you, they can change your bone structure. We're talking about shape shifting, muscle mass, your body size, eye color, hair color, skin color. They can also mutate your DNA into other extraterrestrial life forms if that's what you wanted, or you could become a cyborg. So these are some of the possibilities in the future of what humans, what could define what human is. And here's yeah, I was going to talk about a little bit of femtotech. I'll go more into femtotech just a bit, but here's William Tompkins, and unfortunately he died. But he was one of these whistleblowers that worked on different, I guess, spaceships for the well, for our military, but it was used in the SSP. And but he witnessed the live Apollo 11 feed where it showed these craft on the crater of the moon. But he was aware of different a pill that you could take that would re-age you to the age. For males it was 21, and for females 25, if I'm not mistaken on that. Or I guess I got that mixed up. 25 for males and 21 for females. And then it would also activate all your psychic abilities. It's almost like it's activating all that etheric DNA that we all have. It's suppressed in us. And incidentally, it probably just like I told you about the Atlanteans that lived 150,000 years, it probably slow your aging way down. Although he's not around anymore to really ask him about it, but it still exists out there somewhere. And here's the femtotech. So this is the more advanced technology they got, and these are basically little biobots. And I mentioned the mimetic gels earlier. Yeah, so they can modify the quarks of your atoms as compared to the nano, which just affects like the codons in your DNA. And okay, and so here's a drawing of what Barry King saw with the trip seats. And this, I do recall being in this particular technology. And they can, usually there's some kind of lasers that come down, blue or green color lights. And then you might have a halo around your head, or a mask, a visor. And then they would insert different types of memory engrams, such as a college degree or a new language. And right here, I wrote 2 hours to learn a new language, or PhD, and then a week to learn all PhD. Actually, I think it's a month to learn all PhDs. But a week or a month, what doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, ignorance is going to end our planet. And all the years we put children through to go through school, and at the end, by the time they graduate, they're still ignorant. Really, if you ask me, it's really the education system is just about teaching children to conform and not think for themselves. So this could end ignorance on this planet if we could have this technology released. But they use this mostly for trauma and torture. So go ahead, Mike.
No, it's okay. They use it mostly for trauma and torture.
Yeah. The medbed technology has an option to do this, to change your memories around and so on. But we could have technology like this put in schools. Obviously, not the trauma part. It wouldn't even really need to be a school, because it's not like you're going to be going to it. It's almost like you do one treatment, and in Andromeda, they spend 100 years going through the education system, and they learn everything they possibly can in the universe. So imagine if we can extend our lives for 100,000, 150,000 years, and spend 100 years of going through these kind of treatments. I mean, it's pretty much astronomical what we're capable of with, and I guess that goes back into the singularity with the AI, but it's really, humans are also about to have their own singularity as well. Tyler Clark, yeah, this is what he saw, another trip seat. So the regen tanks, I want to show some image drawings. Okay, first, yeah, they're about 10 foot deep cylinder, and they can regrow limbs. According to Penny Bradley, who was a Nakwaffen pilot, she said the implants of the cyborgs would fall to the bottom of the tank, so they would have to put those back in. So this restores you back to your perfect status without all the cybernization, the implants, and whatever else other kind of damage they've done to us with chemtrailing and all that, and GMOs. This just shows you some drawings of what it looks like. And there's, remember what I told you earlier, there's some kind of gases that come out of the water that sustains you, and then they give them drugs to to put them in stasis so they don't move. And then if your soul is extracted from your body and put into a clone body, as I mentioned earlier, they can do that. Then your physical vessel can be stored in one of these stasis chambers to sustain it. And then you can go out in your clone body and go out in the universe and do whatnot. Then you can come back. And so, yeah, it's pretty fascinating. Okay, so this is another drawing. Obviously, this is not as pretty as the other drawings, but this is what I guess this is what they would try. I think this is Project Blue Ranger. But this is a regen tank, and I guess the gel, the mimetic gels are in here, and you would soak in here. And this just shows you a close up what the panel actually look like. It shows you the stasis, regeneration, cells, biological. Yeah, it's like a touch screen. Different medical labs. Yeah, so I mentioned earlier how how the SSP would kidnap people and trade them. So these clones, when after they kidnap a human, I say kidnap. Really, I mean these humans were going to die anyway, right? So, but it probably would have been better if they just died, if you ask me. But so they pull them out of the fires and the plane crashes, and then they convert them into a cyborg, and then they're given a med pod and a replicator, a food replicator, and they're sold off to extraterrestrial races as slaves in exchange for technology. So yeah, so it can keep them alive indefinitely. And once we get out into Space Force and all that, once we get out into the universe, we've got a huge mess to clean up to rescue all these people. So it's not just on planet Earth. Here's a cyborg conversion lab. This is Dulce, and this was from 2006. I don't know where that came, who drew that, but I included that, some of the tanks. Now I wanted to go, we're almost about ready to wrap up here because I don't want to take up too much time, but the Antony Priory or magnetic Bordeaux machine, as I said earlier, I'm not an engineer, so I wouldn't be necessarily explain all this, but this was, I think this was around 63 or 68, somewhere around that era, that he built this device that you can see right here what it consisted of. And he was trying to create these longitudinal EM waves that would time reverse cells before they were sick or injured. And it's almost like basically it is time travel. And you can see this massive device was actually 3 stories tall. And this right here is the area that they could work with at that time with the technology. So, I mean, he was able to work with mice and plants and small creatures and critters, but not people. And he wanted to work on people, but to continue testing it because he could actually cure cancer. It was able to reverse your age. It would only take about 2-minute treatment, about 1 week apart, and is non-invasive, didn't hurt. You just laid under it, turned it on, and it time reversed your cells back. And all diseases, everything, it all cleared up. But his funders were pressured to his financial backers were a bunch of rich millionaires, and someone put pressure on them to withdraw their funding from the project. But here's some of the things that they were able to do. Cancer was able to totally cured cancer. Yeah. And then we also have leukemia, very malignant strain of it. That was also reversed. In the control group, they all died. So parasitic worms or creatures, I'm not sure what that is, but the mice survived, and the parasites disappeared from their system. They also developed immunity to further infection, which is kind of curious. Rabbits developed who had chronic illness. They also had the same positive result. Lentils, I included this as well because it's curious to see it also has effect on lentils, where they would grow much longer in length. So farmers could theoretically use, of course, in the future we'll have food replicator tech, but in case you wanted to grow real food, eat real food, we could have basically a garden of Eden. Or, well, I shouldn't use the word garden of Eden. that may not have been the best phrase, but we could turn our planet into a garden planet with with this tech. And here it talks about hen eggs. So they hatch quicker. Yeah. Okay. So I put a link here to learn. You could also just do a search on Google. This information is not really that secretive. I mean, it's secretive if you don't know about it, but yeah. So here's Jared Rand, and so we're getting close to the end of all this, but this is his celestial chamber. Well, actually, I think this might have been from the movie Elysium, if I'm not mistaken. Where I had it. Oh, that's actually from the movie Elysium, from Randy Kramer. But so the celestial chamber is basically, and remember, it seems like there's like a recurring theme here. It's like we need to take one wave and replace it with another, and that's essentially what the celestial chamber is also doing, where it scans your DNA to find the perfect genetic makeup, and then it creates an energy field to counteract that wave of what if you were in a state of disease. So it analyzes and identifies all the anomalies causing you problems, and then it uses a plasma energy field to basically creates this radiant field around the anomalies, and it regenerates the DNA by reversing the time field so the disease state never existed. Again, remember I told you about the longitudinal EMA waves where you're time reversing the cells. So the patient wakes up and they have no clue what just happened. Then they look in the mirror and apparently it's instantaneous, where the other ones, like for instance, if you wanted to say take a male that's bald, it could be a woman, female or male, somebody who's balding, and you put them in the tech, it'll take a while for your hair to regrow back. But I'm gonna mute you. Okay, yeah. So I don't understand how in the world that your hair could just pop back or a limb could pop back using this tech, but that's what Jared Wren claims, and this is apparently ET tech. So Randy Kramer is another one of these individuals out there who's been talking about this, and he's actually trying to get a company together to release this tech. And I mentioned him earlier, but his device uses a dominant harmonic frequency resonance, which creates the waveform to form a holographic image and projects it over the cellular tissue to replace the diseased waveform. So it's just like we're giving the body new information to replace the old. And so he's recreating that from his memory. And again, the military has approved him from releasing it, but they haven't given him any money. So and that's the end of my presentation. I'm going to go ahead and I guess open up the floor to questions. I'll try to answer the best of my ability. I'm not necessarily an engineer, but I'll do my best. So anybody?
Yeah, James, do you have any direct experience with any of these technologies?
I remember being placed in the trip seat, and in that particular case, I was remote viewing a clone body, so I couldn't really tell you what it felt like other than what I saw. And there were these appendages that come down that look like a metal snake. And they had little needles that would attach to your body. They could strip your skin off. And then in that particular case, it was we're talking trauma torture session for me. But they also have little needles that can go in and shoot you up. And in my case, the needle was going in my mouth in that particular experience. But the foam pad would lock you in place. As far as the regen tanks, I'm extremely confident that I've been placed on those as well. I've been through numerous 20-year and back missions, but I don't have recall on that particular technology at this time.
Gotcha. One other question for either you or Mike. People keep asking me if about 5G and how it caused or was partially the cause of COVID-19. And if all of that has been changed over to the the 5G that's beneficial, so to speak, or that wouldn't do any harm. Do either you or Mike have any comments on that?
Well, I mean, we certainly have Starlink in the works,
Yeah.
but I mean, that's going to blanket the whole planet in 5G. But I think we need to have quantum tech tunneling, and Mike has actually talked a little bit of that. He's more an expert on.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I'm going to lay out here in a little bit is about the etheric antennas, which do exist, whereby the computer or cell phone can communicate directly with the other computer or cell phone anywhere in the universe, quite
Would
literally.
that be like 6G or something like that? Or
Well, it doesn't use frequencies. You know,
right. That's what I heard. It's just
goes,
like a
goes through the gaps.
crystal. It's like immediate transmission without any. Yeah.
And there's no distance restriction. It could be anywhere in the universe because it's portaling through, I guess it's going through hyperspace outside of
Well,
space.
space and time don't actually exist.
Yeah. So the 5G that's installed now, is that harmful, or did they change it over?
Trump supposedly found some people that added a magnet to the antenna. You know, those little 5G antennas that
Yeah.
send out to 60 megahertz, and that magnet changes the flux, the spin flux of the microwave. So it's no longer damaging, and it actually should be quite beneficial. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Well, let's hope so.
And actually, we could do that ourselves just by putting a magnet and a crystal and taping it to those antennas. You could change them, you know. And Diane,
They do that with a bubble, right?
Huh?
Didn't you do that with a bubble with that lady that was having the migraine?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
Diane's on here, and as well as other people
Right.
have sent euphoria to the 5G system to the point now in her neck of the woods, it's beneficial. The
Right.
birds are all flocking around the the 5G antennas,
Right.
because there's good energy coming off of them. It's the only reason that they would be doing that. And some people asked me if there was any kind of measurement. I said, well, I don't know. You can't believe the birds. Don't believe in nature. They're all just bird brains. Nature ain't telling you anything.
Right.
I saw them do it more than once as well. It wasn't just the one time. Like I got out on video a couple of times.
Yeah, right. And so that was a result of Diane sending euphoria to the 5G system without actually adding a magnet or anything. It's just us using our consciousness, which obviously creates everything, to change the nature of the 5G, and which Diane did quite successfully.
Excellent.
And other people have too, not just her. There's all over the world, bubble techs all over the world doing this stuff.
Any other questions? Are you all ready for exciting?
No, James, I've got a question. I'm wondering where SpaceX and Elon Musk fit into all of this. Do you know, is he working for the good?
No, he's a blood drinker.
He's a what?
He's going to be going down.
I also heard the guy he's like AI, or he's infected with AI. I don't quite understand how that is.
I just haven't been able, I'm just not sure about him. I watched a really good interview with him, and I was actually quite impressed. I think this was last year.
So that's what you've been hearing, Mike, through your rumor mill. The guy is going to be part of the mass arrests.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
No, he's not. He knows, of technologies like we know about. Okay.
Yeah.
But he doesn't implement them, and he's going the opposite direction. Like SpaceX. What do you need? We don't need SpaceX.
Sure.
We've got the Tesla Utron. We can go anywhere in space and time instantly, and we've had it for years. Mm-hmm. And if he, being an entrepreneur, and a businessman, all you got to do is put in Tesla Utron, bam, it all comes up. And for some reason, he doesn't know that. That's a bullshit.
So I read a report one time of, this might have been a free energy inventor. I couldn't tell you, I don't remember specifics, the names, but what I do recall is that the individual approached the Tesla Motor Works to implement this system, which would basically utilize over Unity in their electric car vehicles. And so the response to the, I guess, upper management of Tesla Motors is that they're only allowed to do about a 1 to 3% improvement of the performance per year. So if they automatically implement over Unity, that's like you go from only what 20-30% efficiency to 500x efficiency. It would just raise too many questions. So I guess they're playing along with the cabal as well, going along with that agenda.
Oh, well, maybe he's poisoned himself to be ready to go to build these technologies and distribute them. We'll see. He's got robotic manufacturing.
I mean, they are already up there, these satellites, and do you expect them to be taken down again?
Yeah, right. Yeah, correct. Yeah, Elon Musk has already put up the 5G satellites. That he wouldn't be doing that if he was humanitarian.
So you think that those Starlink satellites are when they blanket the planet with the frequencies, it's going to be really bad for our health, those particular satellites?
Well, it's already 5G, which has already come, and there's people that have put together that every time we have some kind of worldwide electromagnetic system put in place, there comes some kind of pandemic, that wipes out a whole bunch of people.
Fürstenberg, Arthur Fürstenberg is the guy.
Yeah, and so every time, I forget what it is, like Tesla, well, just putting out the 60 cycles. 60 cycles is not good for you. 60 cycle electricity is not good for you. And right after they did that, there was some pandemic came. And then Marconi stole Tesla's thing and started doing worldwide, wireless communication. There came another pestilence, and on like that, and then somebody's put it together where every time that we have gone worldwide with some electromagnetic system, it's created a pestilence. So
the guy's name is Arthur Fürstenberg. That is the author of this study that went viral.
Yeah, well, that's, so, electromagnetic vibrations that aren't natural aren't probably the best thing for us. Yeah.
Mike, do you have any information on Marconi and Tesla possibly faking their death and going to Venezuela to set up a breakaway civilization?
Oh, no.
Okay, just wondering.
Things. Obviously all that's possible, but we need to work on stuff that's good for us now. So let me finish with the advanced technologies, and then we'll get into the manifestation mechanism. That's what the talk is supposed to be about.
Okay, so you want me to keep recording?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay, so there's been physical age regression technology has been around for a long time. You can look up Kaya Kalpa, Kaya Kalpa, Kalpa, thousands of years old. The Indian folks in India, the gurus, can make themselves younger again by going down in a hole in the ground for 40 days to 80 days. You can even do it with a tent in complete darkness. And, 40 days, you come up with new skin, new teeth, all kinds of things. And then the white powder of gold, which is probably the oldest physical age regression technology that we have because everybody seems to use it. It's mentioned in every religious scripture on the planet as being the stuff that the prophets took to become prophets to start the religions. That's Hudson, found that, David Hudson. And we found it, the monastery that I lived in, all religious scriptures say that we are all to become enlightened. And the head monk at the monastery I lived in, said, okay, well, what's the most efficient tech at becoming enlightened? And they went out looking for that. Came up with Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. But at the end of the day, it's the white powder gold, which is the manna in the Old Testament, the showbread in the New Testament. And what flows in the white powder gold is superconducting energy, which is photons. And the superconducting energy is no resistance. And the human body is set up to become a superconductor by the tetrahedrons that we have in ourselves. And the bones are calcium and bone structured shaped of tetrahedrons. The body's water is structured in the shape of a tetrahedron via the inclusions of micronutrients that we all have. These micronutrients, you have to have the right distribution of them in order to get the perfect structure of the body's cell water. And we all, humans, have these micronutrients we don't get in our diet, which means that we all chemically manifest them. Humans do that. So does chickens, corn, and every living thing that you see. All chemical transmutation goes on all day, every day, in all living things. My favorite that I like to talk about is a crop of corn, which has 10 times more magnesium in it than what's leached out the soil. Excuse me, timeouts. Where did it come from? Physicists, you do have to answer the question. They won't. No. But the answer is, where it comes from is image management, consciousness. The ideas that makes the magnesium are in the DNA part of an anu. So then along comes an atom of iron. The DNA part of that anu around the iron atom is for iron. Okay, well, we change that to magnesium. Bam, presto, changeo. The iron changes to magnesium, just like that. Okay, that's one way of doing it. The other way is simply to manifest it. Anyway, it goes on and on about different forms of alchemy going on in everybody, like a chicken and the eggs that they put out and all the calcium they got. Where did the calcium come from? And it's not in their diet. Although apparently the mica that they pick up, their body's able to convert to calcium. When they're out pecking around the barnyard, that's they're picking up mica. And it gets converted to calcium. So anyway, alchemy goes on all day, and even in us humans, like you're talking about doing shape shifting earlier. Yes, we can do that. We can do shape shifting. We do all the time anyway. That's it. But so there's lots of different physical age regression technologies. Max Langenberg has got water that adds telomeres in a DNA change, corrects genetic defects, and does physical age regression. He got in trouble for that because they did it. The guy that wrote the book "Men Are from Mars, Women Are from Venus." What's his name? He has a Fort Bragg, California. And Max went down there and put in a full-on system for him. And there were 20 autistic kids came. And after 2 weeks, they all went home cured, no longer autistic. And so that created a big buzz. And the FDA come and put their thumb on Mr. Langenberg. And he had to close down all of the spas, which he only had like 2 or 3 spas like that did physical age regression. He still sells the water. The water that he sells has monoatomic oxygen in it, which is like the white powder of gold, which is monoatomic, which is nonpolar, which flows the light of life, which is you can add it to yourself. It's just like eating the white powder of gold. You eat the white powder of gold properly, it will do physical age regression on you. That's in the religious scriptures. They describe how to do that. You know, you got to go on a 40-day fast to do that, you know, which not many people are going to do. And so that's why I've come up with the dream machine. And it's not me that came up with it, it's Merlin, you know, because this dream machine is going to be the best of all of the technologies for age regression, like what we're talking about, simply because it's the simplest. And it will allow shape shifting. It'll be a enlightenment device in a ascension seat, like the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant's full of the white powder gold. What flows in the white powder gold is superconducting. It's non-polar photons, and those non-polar photons is the light of life, and they flow in a superconductor, and the human body is set up to become a superconductor. All superconductors, when they're flowing sufficient energy, levitate. So, you know, becoming a levitating superconductor is not too difficult. You're set up to do that. Yeah. And the dream machine will allow you to do that. And so the way the dream machine works is at ionizing xenon. And you find xenon in a lot of other things. It's also in the tubes that make the replicators. The replicators have sets of 7 layers of tubes, because you got 7 image-only realms that make one physical realm. And they got 3 of them pointing at one another. And those the tubes are rectangular, well, square really, and they have xenon in them. And there's a grid in there that's like an analog computer. And the grid picks up information from your head as to what you want to have manifest, and that's the way the replicator manifests it, is it basically draws it out of your head. And the technology whereby that information is imparted to the replicator, I'll explain to you here in a little bit. It's an advanced technology about being able to communicate anywhere, instantly in the universe. But let me finish with the dream machine. The dream machine I put on there is kind of a cow catcher, you know, telling you guys about the advanced technologies. And the neat thing about the dream machine is that it puts you into a non-polar field. And the only information in that field that's organizing information is your DNA and the idea that's of you, that's in the mind of God, or actually like the CIA and the Monroe Institute call it, the universal hologram, which is the hive mind. That's the mind of God. And the mind, and where that comes from is us, from us as dreamers, and as dreamers as pure consciousnesses. We are dreamers. Our bodies are also dreamers. And those are basically the only 2 sources of images that have been imposed here where this multiverse is, where we're at, is the dreams primarily of our pure consciousnesses, that has our pure consciousnesses have set up this shit show that winds up in an extinction event. It goes through the Mayan calendar or the Hindu Uyghurs at the same period of time. And then you have a mass extinction event where 90% of the DNA leaves the planet. Then a little while later, you have a Genesis event where it all blinks back in. It'll do the same thing all over again. It's like ridiculous. And the only thing that I've been able to see in the genetics that has been changing is that humans are getting smaller, dumber, and weaker, wherever everything else grows due to the rule. Like attracts like, I am that I am. Everything grows, except humans. We get smaller, dumber, and weaker. Must be a goal. It has to be a design to make humans smaller, dumber, and weaker. For what reason? Answer: to make more of us, so we can. So when the party starts, we've got plenty of idiots to provide content. And that's the case. So you too can be a Borneo tribesman with a plate in your lip or your nose or wherever you like it. No, excuse me, you already are. It's the entertainment system. What we have here is the entertainment system, and we're all doing it. But we're breaking out of that, you know, and we've already broke out of it. And the system for breaking out of it's euphoria. So anyway, so the Dream Machine will take us back to a 21-year-old blueprint. And then from there, you can do shape shifting, and you'll probably, because it imposes one etheric realm on you, you know, that when you're in harmony with one infinite etheric realm, then you're in harmony with all of them. And I got an essay that lays that out, you know, one size fits all. Communion requires only one ether. Manifestation involves the 7 ethers. And then we have the flying platforms that work by the cavity structure effect, which is the same thing that the Dream Machine does. It imposes a cavity structure effect, a set of honeycombs on your body so that you're in harmony with that one ether. The cavity structure effect of the Gorbachev flying platforms do the same thing. That's how the bugs fly. That's why the bug's body is an exoskeleton. It's solid. Okay, so that, you know, so that we can. The exoskeleton is solid. It holds that cavity structure effect in solid state. And why in solid state? Because the ethers are pretty much stationary and we're flying through them and they pretty much don't move. That's why the cavity structure effect works. And so when we work in harmony with the ethers, both as the Dream Machine and then also as the cavity structure effect, we're accomplishing the same thing, i.e. coming in harmony with the ether, which means that after enough rides on the flying platforms, we won't need the device anymore. Excuse me, we're humans. Time and space don't exist. So for us, these technologies are just stepping stones to greater expanded awareness for all of us. The same applies to the Tesla Utron. The Tesla Utron, Ralph Ring, you can look up Ralph, the Tesla Utron, all that. Ralph's a good friend. I probably should have had him come on here. After enough rides in the Tesla Utron, you don't need the device anymore. You can go on your own, which happened to Ralph. He wound up in Hawaii. He lived in Northern California, and the next thing you know, he's in Hawaii, meeting the guy that he really wanted to meet over there. And so he got his wish. And he had to call his wife to get a ticket home from Hawaii. You only did that once, you know. But the point is that you very definitely can go on your own. In other words, us humans can do teleportation, telepathy. It don't matter. All of that stuff we will be able to do. And Bubble Tech makes that possible for all of us. Now, these other technologies maybe is a quicker stepping stone to getting to total freedom, where we as humans can levitate and fly and do all those kinds of things. We're not that far away from it. We're very close to it. Okay, so now here's a tech that you probably haven't heard of. We talked about it, and that's the etheric antenna. And so my solution for that is via a Fogel transistor, which is just a transistor with a capacitance plate. Okay, so you got the transistor here, and you got the capacitance plate, and in between the capacitance plate, there's no frequency. It's non-polar. Okay, so what do you got in there? You got hello?
Go ahead. Yeah, sorry. Somebody jumped in.
Okay. So what do you have in that capacitance plate? In between the transistor and the capacitance plate, you've got no cycles per second. So it means you got no seconds, which means you got no time or all time. And so this Fogel transistor was used in U-2s in 1963 to photograph missiles that were in Cuba, but they had covered them up and taken and moved them. Okay, but the U-2 was able to take a picture of them where they were. able to get the imprint, quite literally, of the missile that the missile left in space, okay, via a Focal transistor. Okay, well, that Focal transistor can also be used for this etheric antenna. And the way to do that is that you got a capacitance plate, you make that out of graphene. Graphene is in perfect harmony, size-wise, with an ambient ether, which is why 1 carbon atom thick graphene is the strongest, hardest substance known to man. A strip of graphene will pick up an elephant. Okay, they haven't broke it yet. They can't, the tensile strength. They haven't been able to break it. Okay, well, excuse me. Then it's not the matter of carbon that's holding this together. It's that there is an energy field behind it that's holding it, and that's the case. And that's the ethers, which are eternal. So see, now as your ethers are eternal, what are you going to be able to do to graphene? You might have a long time watching it because it's eternal, you know, as well as the hardest, strongest substance known to man, as well as in perfect harmony with the ambient ether, just like the Copernicus gravity structure effect, just like superconductance. Are the way that they all work is by being in harmony with an ambient ether. And it's kind of like, is anybody awake out there? I don't think so. Finding somebody that actually understands that there are ethers and that you can work in harmony with them, few and far between. Few and very far between. We have idiots. Anyway, so the neat thing about the etheric antenna is that our very famous guy, Carl Weltz, who invented orgonite, invented the word orgonite, has been able to actually do it. And when I say actually do it, he put information into a piece of orgonite from a telephone and extracted the same information at a distance from another piece of orgonite where the orgonite acted as an antenna at both ends. He's got a nifty problem, and I'm really pleased about his problem because it proves what I've been saying all along about the nature of organic material or orgone material and the 2D nature of things, where in the capacitance field you got no time, okay? And because of that, Carl, when he picked up the information at the other end, it came very fast. It got compacted.
I'm hoping it's
it changed it.
He's talking about manifestation techniques next.
Continue.
Yeah, and so that happened for Carl is exciting to me, you know, because it proves to me the nature of the gaps and what we want to get into. We want to get into those gaps. It's where we come from. Everything starts as a seed in darkness. Okay, well, where's the darkness? It's in between. It's in between the gaps. That's where the darkness is. And we pass through it every microsecond. And as we pass through it, then there's a manifestation process that occurs that I've written down. There's no mystery about it. And I'll explain it in brief here. You know, as exactly how manifestation of everything occurs, and therefore how it is that we in Bubble Tech and as collective humans can manifest stuff ourselves. Just like we can fly and teleport, pretty soon we'll be able to manifest. So I'm quite excited about Carl's thing. If he reads my essay, which has been sent to him, I think. Doran, are you still here? You send Carl the etheric antenna essay. If he has that, then he will be able to fix his system and make it work. Doran, are you still with us? Doran works with, I don't see him, he must not be here. Hang on. He works with no, he's there. He works with Carl quite a bit. And so that's pretty exciting, because that system allows us to communicate for free anywhere in the universe in instant time. And that system with the capacitance plate and the Fogel transistor is how to pick up information and impart it to a replicator. It'll read your mind. It'll quite literally read your mind. And there's another addition to it that you have double capacitance plate in graphene, and the chip in between is a vegetable chip. Absolutely will read your mind, impart that information to those tubes in a replicator, and replicate whatever you have in your mind. And then after a while, after enough time of using that device, we probably won't need that anymore. We'll be able to manifest stuff with our mind, because we do anyway. Okay, as is obvious. And that's the purpose for all these advanced technologies, is to get it to the point where us humans can do this stuff ourselves. And again, since time and space doesn't exist for us, then manifestation is, like they say in England, a piece of piss. We can do it just with our imagineering, and quite quickly. Okay, so the next in my thing is a mechanism of manifestation. Is image and emotion management in the center of us. Hi diddle diddle, right down the middle. All manifestation is image and emotion management that goes on in the center of each one of us. Time and space doesn't exist, so what we see is what we collectively agree to. It's a hive mind shit show, what I call it. It's what goes on. Okay? And because time and space don't exist, we all manifest it. There isn't anything out there that you can pass judgment on, because it's you doing it. If you can see it and you can label it, then you're doing it. Period. There's no wiggle room on that. It's the nature of consciousness. So you go around raining hate on stuff when like we are with the cabal right now. We manifested them. We needed them to keep us separate from one another. The goal of consciousness is separation. In a way, separation is freedom. And why is it separation freedom? Because you're no longer involved in knowing everything. And you're no longer involved in continuous orgasm. Those are the two big problems we're trying to get away from.
And I cut out of the shit show, the hive mind shit show.
The shit show has the goal of creating separate beings. Because separation obviously is quite difficult. Otherwise we wouldn't have a shit show, would we? I mean,
Mike, I look at my cat, and sometimes I look at him and I'm like, I created that. Oh my God, like what the fuck was I thinking? He's crazy. He looks like nearly cartoony sometimes as well. It's insane.
Yeah, well, it's us. The 100th idiot effect always applies. Eventually, once we blow all the low shot the ethers, which bubble tech can do, then we can manifest on our own, like Sai Baba does and Baba Ji and all of those kind of guys. But the reason they have ashrams is so that like-minded people are able to move collectively, as we do. 100th idiot effect always applies to higher states of consciousness. Now, what are these higher states of consciousness? Maybe we should think about lower states. Maybe we should think about friends in low places, because everything comes from darkness. And once you come into darkness or into a manifestation substrate, then you are connected to everything, and it's all transparent. There isn't anything that's not known. It's all transparent.
Yeah,
And,
that's really obvious.
yeah, right. Yeah. But the neat thing about euphoria is it cuts off that transparency, because the euphoria, the way memories are tagged together or held together is that through the boundary layer, through the five-sided ethers, it tunnels through the ethers. The emotion is in spin in a five-sided ether, and it goes from one layer to the next layer to the next layer. And when it gets the seventh one, it circles up, creates a toroid, okay? And it's a six-sided hexagonal structure with a point in the middle. So it's a toroid in and of itself. And it's all hexagons have seven because it's got a center point. And so you have four image only realms that are let me show you, that are four-sided. And I'll show you that. It's right here. You see that?
Yeah.
That's a first ever photo of light taken showing light as a particle and a wave. And you can see the four-sided rectangular ethers. Each photon is in its own packet. And you can see that you go through the seven cardinal colors. And you can see that they change in size, and that change in size has to be according to the Fibonacci series, and it is. And it is then, therefore, that this information that's in the four-sided ethers came from the hexagonal ethers. And so the vibe of seven was mirrored into the four-sided ethers, because the four-sided ethers do not lend themselves to a vibe of seven, whereas the hexagonal ethers do. So therefore, it is, as I said, in the beginning there was the word, okay? And the word was Om, which was an orgasmic moan, because that's what's going on out there, And and so that orgasmic moan ultimately mirrored into the four-sided ethers where light travels. Light has to travel in the four-sided ethers because it's non-polar. And then if you go, you see that largest, the violet one, that's actually nirvana. That's the Buddhist nirvana. It's right there in that violet. And I've been there. It's joyful, but that's all that's going on there. It's nothing but joy. It's neat to hang out there. You can stay for quite a while, but a little bit boring because it just stays joyful. That's it. Okay, that's nirvana. That's right there. You go up one level up from that, you get into white light, where all these colors combine. Okay, and then not long after that, you get into where the white powder gold is. The white powder gold exists in a four-sided ether, not in a hexagonal ether. All of the monoatomic elements are like that. The quantum mechanics and the CERN and all of the particle physics has never ever determined the mass and location of any subatomic particle, nor even a singlet atom. The mass and location of these things are unknown. You can't determine them at the same time. So you don't have a piece of matter. They never like to talk about that. That's the collapse of the Waves function and a bunch of other stuff, and Bell's theorem, and there's all kinds of things that come about as a result of that they don't like to talk about. But I know it cold, and they probably really don't like talking to me either, physicists, because they'll thump them. But anyway, so the four-sided ethers is also a communication system. The ethers in general are a communication system. And so that's why we're able to communicate via the ether. We do communicate via the ethers all the time. We, in fact, everything teleports through the ethers. It mirrors off. As you can see, the light is mirroring off, okay, from one to the next to the next. And that's what happened when the first photon, the first anu came into being. Like I was talking about earlier, it exploded. It manifests throughout the ethers, mirrored off throughout the ethers. It was made out of love. And you think that wasn't a surprise to herself? She likes surprises. Surprise is supreme within consciousness, within the consciousness of everything, and then all of consciousness. Surprise is supreme, and the reason is because it's boring out there. Yeah, and that, as is obvious, otherwise we wouldn't have what we have got going on here. Okay, so back to more to the mechanics of manifestation. Oh, I love this. Okay, so this is important, and this is something that I've been wanting. The Diane and others that are getting the quickening. If you start thinking from your center, instead of thinking in your mind, you feel the heart chakra, and then not just the heart chakra in the way that that energy manifests on our sternum. Go inside your body and manifest euphoria inside there. Okay, and then think from there. Put your thought processes in there, and you'll be getting the quickening all the time.
Yeah, I do that as well.
Yeah.
I actually can't stop laughing at the minute, all the time.
Yeah. And the way that I do it, and it's instantaneous, is with the toning. Like that. And at the same time, I'm seeing it in here, instantaneous. And if I kept doing it, I'd start doing the whips and jingles straight away. Happens just like that. It's very, very important. And so the toning,
I get it about 24/7. It's crazy.
Wow. Cool. Well, that's the glow. You're close to getting into the glow. You're close. You're very close to having an ascension event. And if the ascension event or the enlightenment event occurs due to us focusing in the middle of us, then that's the best way. The old way of enlightenment was the rapture. The rapture is where the spiritual body overtakes the physical body. That doesn't work. And the reason you know that doesn't work is because it's described as how all Jesus and everybody else, all of them became enlightened in that manner by the rapture. Okay, well, the reason we know that doesn't work is because not one of those guys ever taught us telepathy. Not one of them. Zero, none. So they don't want us free, and they're not on our side. And when that spiritual body overtook their physical body, it came from hive mind. Okay, had to have come from hive mind that wants humans to remain as puppets, which we have been for a very long time. But now we've broken out of that, which is a cool thing. So if you become enlightened from inside, this is the kind of enlightenment we want going forward versus the kind of enlightenment that we've had in the past that very obviously does not work. 144,000 enlightened beings have happened. 160,000 enlightened beings have been produced in the monasteries of China and Tibet and Nepal and those places, India. Greg Braden tallied it up somehow, another 160,000. It doesn't frickin' work. If it did, you'd know. This place would be a lot different. Well, it's gonna be a lot different.
I don't know though, Mike, because they say that like I know people that are like full on masters.
Full on what?
They're like masters. Like they're immortal.
Yeah, well, in order for them to be actually on our side, then they would be teaching us telepathy. And if they're not doing that, then they're not on our side. It's just that simple.
I don't know. Doesn't telepathy just not happen once you get to like a certain level?
If you focus on doing it, I mean, well, it's very obvious, Diane, please.
Yeah.
The way that we cause things to happen in bubble tech is via telepathy, via imagining things.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's people in bubble tech, myself included, that have had a lot of spontaneous telepathic events that have occurred as a result of being in the bubble field.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Huh?
It makes sense that it would intensify it all and like make it stronger.
Oh yeah, it cleans the ethers, so that all of these things can happen. And bubble tech is mankind's most important technology, and all these other technologies are wonderful, but at the end of the day, it's bubble tech that will take us to the next level.
Yeah, agreed, for sure.
Okay, so you think from your center, get in touch with your center, put your batshit brain there. Forget about what the thing that you got in your head is a pieces of shit collection device that needs to be defecated. It just collects shit. That's all it does. Forget about it. Or you could do like Eckhart say, which is in the thing that I sent Jim, my notes for the day. Become aware of the present moment. But the thing that people don't realize that this is a real difficult one. Okay, difficult for me too. Our mind is trapped in logical processes. Logic is a problem. And the reason that logic is a problem is because it makes sense and then we believe it. I love this one. For example, we have these mass extinction events, which are whatever the length of the Hindu yugas and the Mayan calendar, 250,000 years or 430,000 years. I don't know what the number is. It's some number, but you have these mass extinction events. And let me see here. Where is I going with that? Oh yeah. You want to know why we have mass extinction events? Well, the spoken word is lineal time. The spoken word results in lies, crime, then politics, and then war. It's all logical. It all goes from one step to the next to the next. It's all logical because of the spoken word. It requires lineal time. Okay? It enforces lineal time. But when in fact, like that, we made it rain in Australia and put out all the fires. Same in the Amazon, the Congo, and Siberia last summer. We did that. Okay? It's not logical that us scattered all over the world with our sandbox 101 technology are able to do these things. It's not logical. Guess what? You're right. Logic keeps us trapped in the shit show. It's like you have these huge yugas of time, and during each one of those yugas of time, between extinction events, everybody's probably talking about dinosaurs that died 60 million years ago or whatever it was. Okay? 67 million years ago. Well, it's probably the same hoax that we have during each epoch. You got dinosaurs. Because you got dinosaurs and you have history, and because you have history, you got logic and reason, and you're in a shit show, bro. Your logic just failed you. Yeah. Sorry about that. That's a difficult one. The logic is a problem. It's like the laws of physics are logical. They're a trap. Making hurricanes, stopping hurricanes, making hurricanes take a dirt road. We've done that a number of times. That's not logical. Okay, now you'll be pleased to know that there actually is a logical way in which everything is made manifest. All things start as a seed in darkness. And the seed in darkness, what is it? It's just a seed. The next thing that happens out of darkness is a little circle. I am that I am. We all do that every microsecond. All of us, all humans, start at the same time, every microsecond in darkness by going, I am that I am. And so does everything else. The rocks, the trees, everything does that. It all has its own consciousness. But humans more so than anything else, obviously, because for us, time and space don't exist, which means that we have complete control on everything that's inside of us. Okay? And so everything starts as a seed in darkness. And then you have the little circle, which is made out of love. And so from that love, we make this shit show. Okay? And so, excuse me, how do you do that? You know? And the way you do that is that the images come out of darkness. And the images are imposed upon the ethers. And even though the ethers are made out of love, our imagineering, us, not anybody else, us, our imagineering is involved in doing that. Yeah, that's a one-size-fits-all essay. You know, it goes into, it's a good essay. Excellent, especially when you tie it in with the dream machine, which it does inside of it. It ties it in with the dream machine.
Was there anything here you want to look at in one of these essays?
I've got photos of the dream machine, but I don't know where they're at the moment. It's just like a sunbed. Bottom line, very similar to what you showed earlier, but the dream machine is a lot simpler. A lot simpler, because the information's already there. We don't have to go capture the information with technology. All we have to do is capture it with our own noggin, and our own desires. Okay, so anyway, everything starts as seed in darkness, and then the images come out of there. And then those images have to expand. They go up through the ethers. Like, they quite literally step up through these etheric realms. And just like this. So you can see here, that's the etheric realms where this light is. And this light is the building blocks for the images. You can impose images on that. And when you get above, you get out of where these things are manifesting, where they've mixed in the white light and so on and so forth, then you can impose images. And so the images start way down in darkness, and then they come step up, step up, step up, right through this, until you hit the 5-sided ethers. You have, in between the 4-sided ethers and the hexagonal ethers, you have to have a 5-sided boundary layer, which is the ultimate place that we are ascending to where our pure consciousnesses collectively are ascending out of lonely darkness into the euphoric gray boundary layer. And the boundary layer is in between light and dark. It's gray. And it doesn't have love or fear. It's just got euphoria. It's in the duality. And the boundary layer is 5-sided. So this is the 5D that all of the metaphysical people talk about. I always kept asking them, show me 5 dimensions. They're not able to do it. It turns out that it's not 5 dimensions. It's a boundary layer that's pentagonal ethers. That is where our pure consciousnesses are ascending to. They're getting out of lonely darkness so that they no longer will impose that aspect of duality onto us, which is the fear of loneliness from the old bitch, which leads me to another part of my presentation that I was talking about here. There is no karma in us. We have no karma. It is all God's karma. It all belongs to her because of her loneliness. It's not our loneliness, it's hers. You know, and so as a result, yeah, this is God's karma. Correct. Yeah, so we don't have any karma whatsoever except that which we accept. And unfortunately, being stupidos, and then people convince us that we have karma and that it's our karma, we accept it. And so that will also be breaking loose. We'll get loose of that situation. Well, God herself, her loneliness has been a big problem that we have been trying to solve for her, which is kind of typical, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. And that the males have to solve the loneliness problem with the females. And we've done that with Euphoria. And herself has adopted our Euphoria. Euphoria comes from us. Okay, not from her. Okay? The euphoria of being young and that particular emotion comes from us. She has adopted it and imposed it upon the void, upon the gap. And the way that you know that for a fact is that out of capacitance, out of all these capacitance fields, comes euphoria. Okay, that's only been recent in the last few decades that it started happening. Okay, or euphoria comes out the gap, and so a proof of that is that Rego found a way of putting diodes together that, diodes are PN transfer, positive, negative, that's it, or NP, whichever, the transistors, all three of them, and there was a diode just positive, negative. And he puts a bunch of diodes together, runs a little bit of energy through them, and it creates an orgone field. So Jim, the really cool thing about that technology is that you can add information, you can put information into those diodes, which get installed right into your subconscious. Yeah. You talk about a learning machine, there it is right there. And a subconscious paddle, if you will, mechanism for changing the information in our subconscious. We have it now. And the where is it? The link about the dream machine. In that link about the dream machine is these various technologies for the diodes, and on top of that, the intention repeater from Tom Sweet in San Antonio. You got to be able to change anything about any human body with that technology. And you add it to the dream machine. The reason we add it to the dream machine is, first of all, to retain our memories. You go into the dream machine, if you don't intend to retain your memories, you won't, because they'll get expunged by euphoria, which is its job. That's its job, is to get rid of memories, because all memories portend the future. And if you have a memory and a future, then in between you have the shit show, hive mind shit show. All memories are little dog turds that lead to a shit show. And then good, bad memory, then any kind of memory, not good. All right, let me see here. Okay, well, that's the most important. The bubble genies and our rainbow dragons. You know, Lee Erickson introduced the rainbow dragons, which are bubble genies, which are heart genies that from our previous incarnations. Because there's this mandala of souls that they all talk about actually exists. Okay, you can take a picture of it practically. Okay, that mandala of souls is the souls of our previous human bodies. It is not our pure conscious, our masochistic pure consciousnesses. You know, and so that mandala of souls there, you know, has genies, heart chakras that goes with each one of them, and that is our rainbow dragons. And those rainbow dragons, you can call them in. If you think about it and you're doing the breathing and you call in the rainbow dragons, you'll feel them come in. You know? And Diane, you can try that. You maybe haven't thought about trying that or didn't know about it, but you call in your rainbow dragons knowing that they are the bubble genies of all of your previous incarnations. And look out, you'll be amazed.
Yeah, I don't have rainbow ones, but I do have dragons there.
Yeah, well, they're called they're rainbow because of the colors, but yeah, but they are also intent on merging with our heart genie, our bubble genie, our heart chakra, and ending that aspect of their separation from us.
Mm.
Anyway, did anybody have any questions? One other thing, I got the note here that I haven't laid out, and that is when we do the installation of a image in BubbleTech, the way that we make that image lock in is via doing it inside of us. We see the image imagineering going on inside of us. Then once the image is built, then we wrap it in a grayish, purplish gray spin, and we spin it to the right. We're inside of it, and we spin to the right with it. We put our consciousness inside there, and we spin to the right. That locks it in. It locks it into a little tiny bit of DNA, or you have to lock it in. And then the next step after that is the REM, where you do the rapid eye movement, which does the disassociation from logic. So that it's not logical that we can stop a typhoon, but we did. It's not logical that we can stop a hurricane, but we did. Guys, you got to cut loose from your logic, which the rapid eye movement does. So the manifestation technique that the combination of the breathing and BubbleTech and everything does, the manifestation technique is, first of all, use your Imagineering. Do your telepathic Imagineering. Do it inside of you. Once you've created the image that you want, spin it in purplish gray, and that locks it in. And then lock it into your subconscious by running your eyes back and forth. And you get the whips and jingles like I just did from doing that. And then it's locked in. Then you know that you have the mirror back, and that image is now part of the entire Bubble Genie system worldwide, and that the next thing you know, we're going to have rain in Australia or whatever it is we want. And so that is the mechanics of manifestation right there. I just laid it out. Okie doke? Is that clear?
Yep, sounds good.
Mike, do you have either instructions or know of anybody that sells an etheric antenna? Or if you have a bubble already, does that make it superfluous? Or
What, the antenna?
Yeah, the etheric antenna.
I haven't developed my antenna as yet. I know it'll work. I mean, the focal transistor's been around for years. Mr. Welts, Carl Welts, has made his thing work. Okay, but it had that problem. Now, his idea is to patent it, so he can sell it. My idea is to make it and give it away, which I've already done, because I've already got the information about how the antenna works, why it works that way, and how to make it is in the essay. Yeah. So is that going to happen? Absolutely.
Cool.
Am I going to do it? Probably not, because the military has the same antenna. NASA has the same antenna. They've been communicating with people all over the universe with a very similar technology, and so that, it'll come out and we can add it to our computers or whatever we want to, the cell phones. And eventually we would not even need that, we'd all become telepathic.
Right.
Because you're using the ethers. Once the more you use the ethers and the more that you are like part of the ethers, pretty soon, none of this technology will be needed. We can do it ourselves.
Good.
Hi, Miha.
Hi, how are you doing, Mike?
Excellent.
Excellent job.
Thank you.
Mike, would you mind summarizing when you summed everything up there? I didn't quite catch everything. Would you mind repeating it?
Yeah, well, I hope I can. Did you get it?
Yeah, that was too hypersonic for me.
Really?
I'll take the lower frequency version.
Really, yeah, we got friends in low places. Okay, so starting in low places.
Okay.
Starts the seed in darkness. From
Okay.
the seed in darkness, the images grow. Everything grows, as it comes up through the ethers. Okay. Then also, to be made manifest, the 100th idiot effect applies. So you've got an image coming up, and there has to be other dreamers that, basically label that image.
Huh?
Okay. And when you get enough labels attached, then it's just like the Maharishi effect, which is the most rigorously studied phenomenon in the social sciences, that when you get the quantum, the right last transcendental meditator, they changed the war rate in Beirut. They cut it in half one day, from one day to the next. Crime rate in Washington, D.C., Chicago, 40 different countries, or 40 different cities. They did that, and it was always as a result of the final idiot coming on board. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the 100th idiot effect always applies. So start of the seed in darkness, you're going up through this, you get involved in the universal hologram, basically, or the hive mind, but nonetheless, the manifestation still has to happen the same way. Starts seed in darkness, bing, 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 comes up, hits the 5-sided ethers. Now the 5-sided ethers, the information, is mirrored into the bottom of it, to the bottom of the, and then it's doubled. It's doubled as it goes out the top, because the pentagonal ethers got 2 faces that are connected to the hexagonal ethers, and so the boundary layer is an amplification system. Okay.
Okay.
And so then those images get broadcast into the hexagonal ethers, where then you get into toroid formation. And then you get vibrations, and when you're in toroid formation, you wind up with lineal time, gravity, inertia, electromagnetic vibrations. All of the properties of 3D come about due to toroid formation. And so all of this has happened from the seed in darkness up to toroid formation in no time, because there's no time in 2D. Even though it seems like a lot of stuff going on, and there is, okay? It's happening in no time, so it happens instantly. So we go every microsecond. This whole same sequence of events happens for everything you see. It has to do it like that. I know I should have brought a screen share out. You can see Einstein had that. It's in my essay, the illusion of time, that shows the slices of time. And they actually are. You know, all we have here is up, down, and sideways. That's it. Everything else is just an illusion. Well, the whole thing's an illusion. I mean, the Maya, of course, although, everything's going on there, time and space don't exist, everything's going inside of our head. Okay, well, what about these physical bodies and all this physical stuff that's around us? What's going on with it? How is it not just etheric? How is it not just a holodeck? Okay, why can't we just walk through it? It doesn't actually exist. Okay, but nonetheless, it does. All right, so then there must be a reality outside of us and not just the non-reality inside of us. Yeah. But fortunately, yeah, go ahead, Diane. Any other questions?
You mentioned something, Mike, about spinning one way and then spinning another way at the very end, and that's the part I didn't get.
Oh, when you imagine something, you imagine it inside of yourself, because it isn't anywhere else. It's not anywhere outside of you. So you're manifesting inside of yourself. Then to lock it in to the ethers, you have to put it into a spin, because the ethers spin.
Okay.
Okay. And DNA all spins to the right. And the reason that DNA all spins to the right is because the anu that makes this entire universe spins to the right. And the universe next one over spins to the left. And the next one over spins to the right, and so on. It's mirror images. And so what we do is we visualize the image inside of us. We're thinking in our center. We've made the image, then we wrap it in euphoric purplish gray and spin it to the right, with us being inside of it, with it spinning to the right. All right, and that then locks it into the fabric of everything. Then we let go of it, just like Dispenza, talks about. And the way that you let go of it is with the REM, with the rapid eye movement. That disassociates the logic, the fucking batshit brain. It turns loose with it. The only way that you make something happen is to let go of it.
That's right. Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and that's with everything. It starts as seed in darkness. So we make our own seed, we wrap it up in a euphoric blanket, and that makes it manifest.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, guys, ladies and gentlemen?
Mike, is there any way the bubbles can help with this process, or should we try to involve them at all, or is it
Well,
purely
the bubble manifests the bubble genie, and it opens up everybody's heart chakra. Most everybody talks about that. And so when you got that feeling, then you start using your head to put your euphoria inside of yourself.
Right.
And then you start thinking from there. And the bubble helps with that hugely. You do that, but my bubble, little tyke, when I sit down by it and I just touch it, I go into the whips and jingles.
Right.
Sure, Diane, the same way with you, isn't it? You just touch that plaster piece on your bubble and you go into the quickening, right?
Yeah. Oh, I was getting like flashing lights and everything on top of me. I think Starcat Wendy said she gets that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like the flashing lights and stuff.
Do you have the violet ray on all the time when you're doing that, connected to the bubble?
Yeah, mine's hardwired.
Oh, it's hardwired in, so it's always on. Okay. Yeah.
I got 4 of them running all around me.
Excellent. Yeah.
It's probably why my computers don't work.
That's a big factor in it, I would say.
They do phones. Yeah.
I put them around my bed. I have three in a triangular formation around my bed, plus the Genesa crystal up in the ceiling.
Yeah, no, and you stop the clocks.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, which is a property of the Grebennikov cavity structure effect, is stopping the clocks.
Was that right? Oh,
Yeah. So anyway, we know that we'll be flying pretty quick.
good.
On
That's
flying
great.
platforms, right?
Good. Thank you.
Welcome. Well, I don't have anything else unless anybody's got any more questions.
Thanks, Mike.
Remember, the prize is supreme and it's not logical.
I will.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mike. A great presentation. Well done. Well done.
Cheers, Mike.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mike.
Cheers.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for all the answering questions for me.
No more questions?
Hey, Mike. I had an idea for the lenses. You need to speak to Philip Smith. The
Who's that?
the multi-dimensional lenses.
Multi-dimensional lenders?
Lenses.
Lenses.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the reverse lenses.
Yeah.
Where they're convex instead of concave, or concave instead of convex.
Polarized.
Yeah, right. Well, the opposite of polarization. They fuzz everything out. You know, and that's what we find in spiritual technology. Well, in 2D, you don't have hard edges of things. Everything's fuzzy.
Yeah.
And that's where you want to be. That, you know, and it's easy to get not logical there.
Sure thing.
Well, it's just like me. How, you know? I mean, how many orbs have you seen? Millions of them.
Millions, yeah.
More and more.
They're all. They don't have real tightly defined edges.
No.
Yeah. And that's because they're in 2D, not in 3D. It's only in 3D where you have polarity or duality that you have tightly
You never come
defined
down
edges.
for water in the middle of the night? Ever? You never come down for water in the middle of the night?
Who's speaking?
That was Vince. He's not. Yeah, I put him on mute.
So did you record this, Jim?
Yeah, I can stop recording. If you're ready. We're done.
Yeah. This is just for Bubble Tech people anyway.
Okay. Sorry. Are you gonna post this anywhere?
Just on Bubble Tech.
Okay.
Great. It'd be great to have.
Well, I'm gonna stop the recording.